Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Knights of the Roundball Table. I'm C-Red Fred. Thank you for joining us on this historic Thursday evening as an end to another disappointing trade season comes for the beloved Bull. This show brings some of the greatest minds in the Bulls Twitterverse together to discuss the ongoing adventures of the Red Leviathan. Tonight, the Knights we've called to order are, number one, legendary Bulls podcaster from Running with the Bulls, an inspiration to me and many others, thousands of others, hundreds of thousands.
Tens of others.
Tens of others. The beloved has brought him back into the sphere of influence with the improvement of the team. The king of Sting, the great Brian Cush. How are you, my friend?
Oh, Fred, it's been a long time since I think I've actually talked to you. We've been texting the last few years. Thanks for having me on. I remember doing a podcast with you, I think shortly after Jimmy Butler was traded. And yeah, you mentioned my old Bulls podcast. It's been 12 years since I did that podcast. It's hard to believe. Time flies, but yeah, it's hard to believe how long it's been. But no, it's cool to be back on with you, talking some Bulls with the coach here and Tim. Looking forward to it.
You can't wait to hear what your thoughts on the beloved, especially after this evening. Now, number two, NBA historian, scout, and owner of the best jump shot I've ever seen in person from the sunny state of California. He's worked with some legendary figures in the game. It's my good friend, Tim Gallagher. How you doing, brother?
Fred, I'm doing great. I don't want to rub it in, but we're having record warm temperatures out here in Southern California. As you know, I grew up near Cincinnati, so I've got almost a flight full of family members flying out for the Super Bowl. I don't have a ticket. Some of them do, some of them don't, but they're so into the spirit of things. They're on their way literally tonight, flying out. So looking forward to that and hope the Bengals make a good showing. I know we're going to talk about basketball here, but I certainly empathize with a lot of the Bears fans that are probably also big Bulls fans. So it's been a long time for the Bengals. So enjoying that. And actually, back in the corner over my shoulder there, that's a John Paxson signed lithograph, actually, just to get into the right spirit of things. Our hometown of Dayton, Ohio, a bank there, when John hit some of those key shots in the finals, put out these limited edition lithographs. So that's Johnny back there.
Fantastic, yes, and I will always be grateful for your introduction. That one game we went to where I was able to meet John Paxson, legendary player for the Chicago Bulls, and I think a much better GM than he was given credit for. But that's another story and another debate for another show. And finally, last but not least, leader extraordinaire with over 30 years of coaching experience in one of the finest basketball minds east of the Mississippi River. It's Coach Colucci. How you doing, brother?
C-Red, always a pleasure, C-Red, but I'm a little confused. My notes here are that this is a Bears podcast, and I have to talk about the woes of the offensive line. I'll have to wing it on the Bulls trade deadline and how upset you are that Acme didn't make any moves.
Yes. Well, let's get into it. Let's first start out with question number one. Our producer, Steven Johnson, can't thank you enough for handling this. Let's get it going. What are the ramifications of the Harden-Simmons trade for the beloved Bull? I'm pretty devastated by this trade. I'll start out by saying it, but I'd like to first go around, and we'll start out with you, Cush. What do you think the ramifications are for this trade for the Bulls? And you could talk about the ramifications for the Nets and the Sixers in a bigger picture.
Well, it's tough because now I think this puts Philly ahead of the Bulls. I really do, and the Nets. I saw that the Nets just lost their 10th in a row, and Fred, we were texting earlier that they got they made this trade, and I think getting Drummond is an underrated move. I think that's huge. I mean, this is a guy who a couple of years ago, I believe he led the league in rebounding 3 out of 4 years. He had a decent stretch. I can't remember if it was like between 17 and 20 or the exact years. They get him, they get Simmons, and I'm sure he'll get his act together. He's still an elite defender. They pick him up. They get Seth Curry. Now they got some extra shooting. Once Durant gets healthy, maybe they lift the vaccine mandate in Brooklyn. I mean, if they're clicking on all cylinders come playoff time, I don't see how anyone beats them in the East. Maybe I'm too high on the Nets. I was really high on them last year, and they were, how far away from winning that series against Milwaukee. I mean, I still feel good about this Bulls team. I'm not too disappointed about them not making a move, I'm willing to give, Arturis the benefit of the doubt. This isn't like years of watching Paxson and Gar Forman kind of sit on their hands at the deadline. Arturis and Mark, they transformed this team so much in just, about a year and a half. The fact that they stood pat at this deadline, I'm fine with it. And going back to the trade, the big trade from today, when that trade happened, in my mind, I honestly just, as a Bulls fan, I try to be honest with myself. I don't think the Bulls, this team, even when they're fully healthy, got Caruso and Pat Williams and Lonzo back, I don't think they could beat Philly or Brooklyn in a 7-game series. Therefore, I wouldn't want to give up Kobe or Patrick Williams for a player like a Jeremy Grant or someone that I still don't feel would put us ahead of Philadelphia or Brooklyn or even Milwaukee for that matter. The East is going to be tough. It's going to be a gauntlet. Even the first round series are going to be something else to watch. It's going to be tough.
So just to clarify, Kush, you're saying that if this trade never happened and the Sixers were as is with just Embiid and a bunch of role players around them, you think the Bulls fully healthy could not have beat that team?
Fully healthy? No, I think the Bulls give them a try. But I mean, they're what, 0-3 against them this year?
Yeah, but they were doing well against the Nets, right?
What's that?
Doing well against the Nets.
They did. They did.
So,
Embiid's just trouble for the Bulls.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about
it. But yeah. I mean, who knows? They think yes, they did beat the Nets, but then they looked bad when they played them a couple weeks ago and got blown out. But on the other hand, the Bulls, shorthanded, looked pretty good playing at Milwaukee. It's been up and down, so it's hard to say. But honestly, when it comes down to it, it's a 7-game series. Pre-trade, would they beat Philly in a 7-game series with home court, a fully healthy Bulls team? I think they could. There's no point in talking about it because the trade happened. So we're going to talk about it as it is now. I don't think the Bulls, after the trade, would beat either Philly or Brooklyn in a 7-game series, if everyone's healthy. So knowing that, I wouldn't want the Bulls to trade Pat Williams or Kobe White for a player that I feel wouldn't help them beat them regardless.
I see. Good point. Tim, your thoughts?
Yes. Well, the first thing as a basketball historian, when I see Harden-Simmons, I think of the college Harden-Simmons that produced NBA old-timer Harvey Catchings, father of Tamika Catchings. But I know we're talking about a different Harden-Simmons in this trade. But anyway, I am not buying into just plugging these guys into these teams and think that in short order they're going to have the right kind of chemistry to be championship level. That's just the way I see it. I'm much more on the spectrum of team chemistry, having a core group of guys, and as we're seeing in Los Angeles and in Brooklyn, and I know there's a lot of factors beyond just team chemistry, but it's kind of working out like my basketball purist mind thought it would. You can't just slap these guys together and expect they're going to challenge for a title, right? Even if they're talented. There's age, there's injuries, there are a lot of factors, coaching. So in the East, I'm really more concerned about Milwaukee, obviously, as the repeat champion. And I kind of like that Ibaka pickup, just another, that's the kind of guy I wish that maybe the Bulls could have acquired if they didn't have to give up, a Kobe White or something. The problem was the asset they would have to probably part with wouldn't have been worth it. But we'll get back to the Bulls in a second. But Milwaukee and even Miami. Miami's kind of like one of those teams in the NCAA tournament, March Madness, right? Michigan State or Villanova, right? You just don't want to play them in the tournament, right? They're, no matter if their regular season's been up and down a little bit, they've got the culture. They've got from Riley down through Spoelstra, veterans, proven winners, young guys that are emerging. So I'm almost more worried about them than, and I've never felt like the Philly chemistry, and Fred, we can go back to our Bullseye podcast, right? I never bought into the Simmons thing from the beginning. And so I don't know that he's going to make the difference there with Brooklyn. So that's a long way of saying I think the Bulls roster, when healthy, is fine. I think the East is really and truly up for grabs. Now, I'm not saying the Bulls can win the East. I'm not saying they can beat, all of those teams in a series, but I think they could. And I think, and again, I've seen Lonzo play since he was in high school. He's the kind of guy you can plug back in, and the chemistry's there because he's so unselfish and does all the little things, right? Where a James Harden, plugging him into Philly, even though he's played for D'Antoni, and, obviously a very talented, future Hall of Famer and everything. I just don't know that it's a given, right? Embiid has to do his thing. Tobias Harris has to do his thing. Is Maxey really ready to run a team? I don't know.
Embiid has to stay healthy. That's a big if. He's already put on a ton of minutes this year. Let's go over to Coach Colucci, and then I'll give my thoughts to wrap this up.
A couple of thoughts have hit me, and today they had obviously a conference call with Arturis, and I guess maybe Eversley was on it too, and his response was he really loved the chemistry of his team when they were completely healthy, and this is the key part to that trade and why the Bulls did not move forward. When they were completely healthy, they were a top 5 offensive and a top 5 defensive team. And we're going to address that one issue about how many games they need to play together to get to that level. Tim, I'm a coach. I am so bought into the whole chemistry issue. James Harden, to me, is a flawed player. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a great scorer. There is no doubt about it. But there's something about his style of play. And if you watch, remember the 76ers, they love to get Embiid up high to draw away your big man because he can hit a 3. And then when he gets ahead of steam, he just blows by guys. What are they going to do with James Harden, who likes to operate from the top? So it's going to be really interesting from a chemistry standpoint, trying to get Harden integrated. Having said that, I believe that before the trade and after the trade, both the Sixers and the Nets were somewhat marginally better than the Bulls. These trades, and I love Simmons as a player. Offensively, a little flawed, but defensively, he's a top 3 player in the NBA as a defensive player, and the Nets needed that. So a couple things. The other thing I'll strike, I have a son who is a fanatic and can't listen to reason when it comes to basketball and the Bulls. And one of the things I told him is you don't go from a non-playoff team for multiple years in a row to a championship winner. And that's got to be their goal, to win a championship in 1 year. Usually takes a couple of years to get there. And I think Acme wants to figure out, what do we have here? Pat Williams, Kobe, Io, these young guys need to get into the playoffs. Let's see what we have, then make some big decisions about who we need to bring in to get us to that next level. So, short story, I am not at all upset about them standing pat. These guys get healthy. We're going to need some time together, and I'm sure that's one of the questions that'll pop up.
My issue is, we're looking out in the future. My bigger concern is the here and now, because if you look at the teams that are 6 and 7 in the East, the Raptors have won 7 in a row. They got better. They got Thad Young. They made a great trade, I thought, today. They're significantly better, and they're right now, 3 games out. Well, they actually won tonight. So they're two and a half games behind the Bulls.
And Gary Trent dropped 42 tonight.
And he's exploding, becoming a superstar before our eyes. And then we have the Celtics, who have won quietly 6 in a row, 8-2 in their last 10. They're 31-25. They get better. They make a deal today. They get Tice, and I can't remember the specifics with the Orlando trade. But my whole point here is, we're talking about the future when we get healthy. We're not going to be healthy for 4, 6, 7 weeks. What are we talking about? By the time things are done here, my concern is the Bulls. If you look right now, we're ahead of the following teams: the Cavs, the Sixers, the Raptors, the Celtics, the Nets. Every one of those teams improved in this trade deadline. And so now we have to wait for the following, 4 to 6, 7, 8 weeks before we get healthy. Who knows we're going to be at that point in this time after this, after it's all said and done. And if we're 7 or 8, we're probably going to be a first round exit. So I was kind of upset they didn't make any moves today. I'll be frank about it. And, this puts a ton of pressure on Patrick Williams because everybody loves the kid, and he was drafted number 4 overall. I thought he sucked down stretch last year. I'm going to say it. He was terrible. He's got great ability, no doubt about it. We see the talent, credible body. He doesn't have the want to or the aggressiveness that you'd like to see. And I think that's incredibly hard to teach. So I have some major concerns, and we'll get to that in the next question. Anybody want to have any comments on what I just said before we go on to the next topic?
I agree with you, Fred. You look at that March schedule, all those road games. The Bulls might win. Maybe they can pick up 2 of those wins on the road. Worst case scenario, maybe they beat Detroit, they beat New Orleans, maybe. I know they have a back-to-back, I think, with the Knicks and I think the Wizards. but they got to play like at Milwaukee, at Phoenix, at Utah.
Yeah.
March can be a bloodbath, and at the end of March, I mean, again, we don't know, even when Lonzo and Caruso come back, it's going to take them a while to get back into the swing of things.
Totally.
You know, at the end of March, we could be sitting play-in territory, in worst case scenario,
which would be a nightmare.
But who knows? Other teams could go through bad stretches too. So, but who knows?
You know,
I think you're a little pessimistic on things, Fred. But I mean, even let's pause for a second and look at where the Bulls are today, right? If you would say at the beginning of the season, based on who's been injured, who's had to miss games for COVID, that they'd be 13 games over 500, and basically right at the top of the East all the way, would that have exceeded your expectations of where they'd be at this point?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
the fact is, we're at this point, right? We're within. I think we're a legit contender, and the fact that we didn't make any moves today, I think every team got better. That's my biggest concern. Every team that matters in the East got better. I do believe that the Nets, in the short run, maybe not until Simmons gets up to speed, but I think you can make an argument that the Nets are a better team overall because they had huge deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball. All those are fixed. You just got one of the best 3 defensive players when right in the NBA. And, so everybody's like, well, yeah, he's not true. Harden's a better offensive player. But Harden, anybody paying attention his last 16 games, he's shooting 41%, 31% from 3. He's been an absolute joke on the defensive end. You don't need another offensive player. If you got Irving, if that gets taken care of, and it looks like it may, and Irving's starting to play, you have the shooting of him and Durant. You don't need another offensive player. You need a defensive stud. That's what they got. Then they get Curry. They're better, and the Sixers are no doubt better because you've added a player of Harden's, abilities. I'm just really concerned what happened here today. It was, to me, the worst nightmare for the Bulls that this deal went through.
Well, Fred, before you move on to the next topic, I'll just throw this at you because I know you're a Cubs fan and so am I. So it's that philosophy. Remember when Pryor and Wood were hurt every year, and we always heard, when they come back, it's just like making a trade. So I guess we'll have that with Patrick Williams. It's just like making a trade when Patrick Williams comes back.
Yes, and I got to say one more thing because I hear Sylvie bring this up, and a lot of people always bring this up. The previous org, they never traded their guys. First of all, that's not factually true. They traded Heinrich in 2010 for a box of donuts, and he was one of their guys. They traded Dang. They traded Bobby Portis. They traded a lot of their players. You can argue that maybe it was past the time that they should have. That's fair enough, but they did make trades. My concern is I don't know how you can look at Patrick Williams and just say you're not going to move the guy because I didn't see anything last year that made me say he's a surefire stud. Like I brought up Marvin Williams. People are talking about Kawhi. I think he's closer to Marvin Williams than Kawhi. There's a lot of similarities there. 4th overall pick, never started in college. I just think the hardest thing to teach is that desire to dominate, and he didn't show it.
The only issue I have with your point, Fred, is this. Who are they going to get that would dramatically improve? Because remember, they'd have to give something up. All of a sudden, they got to give up Kobe, and they got to. And who do they have now coming off the bench who can score it all? Nobody. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Matt Thomas coming off the bench. He'll obviously move up in the rotation. But the issue is sure I don't know. Was there anybody magically out there that increases their or makes them a better team because they're going to be giving up some stuff too? So to me, it would be almost a wash. I didn't see anybody out there that'd be like, wow. I looked at Serge Ibaka and said he would have been perfect. Then I looked at his numbers and. He's in his 15th year. He's on the downside of his career. He's not going to come in and play major minutes and make a huge impact. So he's a marginal improvement to Tony, well, maybe more than marginal, a big improvement to Tony Bradley, but he's playing 14 minutes a night. I don't know if they would have found anybody. I'm okay with them standing still.
Well, and with the Ibaka, didn't he play for Billy in OKC? So I'm sure they would have explored that. And, a player that played with him for years. I think he was on the team that went to the finals with Billy, right? And so I'm sure players like that, I would hope in the Bulls, front office, they're having the same kind of conversations and deeper than we are. The other point I'll make, Fred, just about, I think, again, I'm a little more detached, literally and figuratively, out here on the West Coast and, kind of follow the league as a whole and maybe, love the Bulls, but aren't, is invested in it. I think your pessimism about the Bulls the rest of the season and the optimism on Philly and Brooklyn, I think you're exaggerated on all three of those fronts from my point of view.
Fair criticism.
That's why Fred's a fan.
I hope you're right, Tim. I hope you're right. We shall see. Go ahead,
real quick. Sorry. One move I would have liked to have seen after I saw what was given up for him, and I was talking about him to my son about a month ago, was Montrezl Harrell. And I saw that he went for Spencer Dinwiddie and was it Vernon Carey? Honestly, never heard of the guy. I don't know what the cap ramifications are, what the salary was, but that was a guy I think would have been perfect for the Bulls. You know, a little scoring, some rebounding, toughness. You know, maybe go after a Grayson Allen.
In that deal was Bertans. Speaking of shooters.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I thought that Dallas got the best assets on trade day. You know, giving up Porzingis, who's, you know, he's not going to get them to the championship. Not that Dallas is winning the West anyway, but to give up Porzingis, which, you know, he's at best has plateaued, and getting Dinwiddie, Bertans, and was Harrell in that package too to Dallas, or Harrell went somewhere else?
Oh, where did Montrezl Harrell go to Dallas? There's so many moves today. I lost.
I know Dinwiddie and Bertans.
I knew he got traded for Dinwiddie.
But anyway.
You know, and I got to just throw it out there. I am Scox. I really appreciate the comments. Go ahead and feel free. He went to Charlotte?
Yeah, he went to Charlotte for Vernon Carey and
Charlotte got better. Charlotte got better. Everybody got better today, and we're just going to see everybody getting healthy in the next 6 weeks. And I am Scox agreed with me. I've never agreed with anyone more than Fred in my life. Good sign. Good sign, my friend.
I am. Yeah.
There we go. Hey, let's go on to the next question. Let's go. Steven Johnson, our fearless producer, throw it on the board. Where did the Bulls rank in the East after the moves that were made today? Let's start out with Tim, basketball historian Tim Gallagher on this one.
Well, I think we've kind of talked through that in a way, just assessing everything in the East. But I still think they're.
Give your order, Tim. Give your order. Who right now, if you had to put money on who's going to win the East, let me hear your ranking 1 to 8. Or 1 to 10. Let's throw them all out there. Who's going to make the playoffs too? And if you were,
I'd go Milwaukee, Miami. I'm going to throw a little surprise here. Cleveland.
Oh my goodness.
Then Chicago at 4. I'd go Brooklyn at 5, Philly at 6. Probably Boston at 7, Charlotte at 8. Yeah, we'll go, and then maybe Toronto and Atlanta for the last spots. Boy, I mean, look how hot Atlanta got last year, right at the right time, and where are they this year, right? So it just shows you that you just don't know, right? No one at this time of year last year would have said, "Oh, the Hawks are going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals," And I think the Bulls roster is certainly as good as the Hawks roster was last year. I mean,
where are they at now? They've won. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They got, as soon as you get DeAndre Hunter back, he's exactly what Caruso does for us. He improves their perimeter defense, and they're a much better team all of a sudden. The Hawks are going to be tough. They are. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
And I think Cleveland picking up LeVert, that was although again he's had some health issues over the last few years, so we'll see. But he certainly showed a lot of promise. I was surprised he was available, and that was a nice pickup for them.
For relative garbage overall, I thought, just
right, exactly.
Let's go over to you, Coach. What do you think? Let's hear your ranking for right now. If you had to put money on,
I have to tell you before I give it as a coach, Billy Donovan is doing it with spit and baling wire. I mean, when you start looking at some of the teams he's putting on the floor with Matt Thomas and Cook and Tony Bradley, I don't know how he's got him third. I have to be honest. My fear is that they're really going to drop and they're going to be in that play-in. What is that? 7 through 10, right? Those 4 teams have to play in. Is that how it works? I should know this. I don't.
Yes.
But I'm fearful, especially Kush, you are right. That March schedule is brutal. And you can see them having a real struggle if they don't get some of these guys back, especially Caruso and Lonzo Ball on that point of attack defense, because they're giving up 130 points a night. But the way I see it, Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in NBA history. The guy's always got competitive teams that play hard. I'm thinking the Heat, the Bucks, the Sixers. Cleveland is my kind of dark horse to sneak in. Raptors, then the Bulls and Brooklyn kind of fit in 6, 7, 8 somewhere. I think they're going to drop. They can't continue putting out a week these guys, because of injuries and expect to compete. I don't think so. I can see them end of March all of a sudden being in that play-in series and trying to get into that top 6. Hate to say it, but that's how I see it.
Coach, I'm with you on Cleveland. They're kind of must watch for me on League Pass. I just love their chemistry. Fred knows I've always loved Laurie too. I wish somehow he could have stayed in the Bulls uniform, but maybe I'm in the minority on that one. But the Cavs are a lot of fun to watch. Love the way they play together. Kevin Love's had a little second win that I didn't know was there. So it's been fun to see.
Yeah, Mobley is incredible too. Over to you, Kush, on this one.
All right, am I basing this on just who I think will win, regardless of final?
Yeah, like if you had a bet right now and rank the East, like what would you put most likely to win to the East?
If I was betting on it, I'd put the Nets. Nets would be my pick to win the East first, and then that'd be my first choice. I'm going with the Nets. Miami. No. Nets, Miami, Milwaukee, Philly. Those would be my top 4.
Yeah.
Right now, I think they'd be hosting the first round. Or no, they wouldn't be. That's just my pick to win the East because the Nets could be in the play-in with the way they're losing here.
Yeah,
they'll get healthy. But if if they're okay by playoff time, and think about it, even if they are being in the play-in tournament for the Nets could actually help them because if they're playing more road games, they'll have Kyrie depending on the vaccine thing in New York. Who knows? But then starting 5, the Raptors. I think the Raptors could end up leapfrogging the Bulls, and the Raptors are a team that have given the Bulls problems this year. That game early in the season, the loss recently, even though it was a tough one. Boston's won 6 in a row. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I could, that March schedule, 11 road games. I mean, Atlanta, that could be a loss. Philly could be a loss. I think they could beat Detroit. Now, even at Sacramento could be a tough game. They got Sabonis. They looked okay in that first game the other night. They got to play at Utah, at Phoenix, at Milwaukee, New Orleans. They could beat New Orleans. At Cleveland, could be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Knicks in Washington. And then they're playing Cleveland and Milwaukee and Toronto at home in March. And then they have the Clippers at the very end of the month. March is going to be
what a buzzsaw. I didn't know it was that bad. I had no idea they were playing all those road games.
Hey, Chris, can I ask a question? Are the Raptors Fred VanVleet and a bunch of guys who are 6'8" who have like 7'6" wingspans? Every single guy they run out looks like they don't have a center, but everyone's 6'8" and is as long as anyone I've ever seen. It's incredible.
Yeah, Siakam, Barnes.
I love the Raptors. I think they're an excellent team.
Yeah,
they're really built and young and they're scared
athletic. They play the NBA style. They're young, athletic, lots of interchangeable wings, and they've got a great player in VanVleet. So,
well, they seem to have the toughness and leadership with VanVleet, and play with the chip on their shoulder. They're buying in totally to what Nurse is preaching. And they're deep. They have a lot of interchangeable parts, and that fits in nicely.
Yeah, they do.
With what the league is trending for these days.
Yep.
And I think. Sorry, Fred. I was gonna say, really, I'm looking at the Bulls. I'm not trying to be too down on them because it's been a great season. Mm-hmm. Going into the season, my hope was that if everything went well for the Bulls, they'd be hosting a first-round series. At least a 4th seed. I think that's the best we could hope for now. If they can get a 4th seed, host a first-round series. But if they run into a team like Toronto, it's going to be tough. Or Cleveland, it's the East. Like I said, the East is going to be insane. Even the play-ins, the first. And then I think you look at it now, the 10 teams that are there. I think that's going to be it. I don't see the Knicks or the Wizards or the Pacers breaking into that top 10. So I'm looking at this top 10. I think this is it in the East. You're going to start to see the gap widen. It's just going to be wherever the chips fall and in the seedings. It's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with Beal out, there's no way the Wizards are going to get there, and the rest of the teams, there's no way.
Oh, I think it's set. I think it's set right now. I mean, I said these 10 teams are going to be. It's going to be without a doubt the the Hawks, the Hornets, the Nets, the Celtics, the Raptors, 76ers, Cavs, Bulls, Bucks, Heat. Those are the 10 teams. The Knicks are done. Look at their schedule for this month. They are done. They've lost 11 to 13. They're an embarrassment. And I don't even want to get into Tibbs and what he did these past 3 days. I'll get into it right now. What a jackass. Did you guys hear about what happened? So he plays 50 minutes the other night. He plays who got hurt? I can't. Gosh, now I'm blanking on who got hurt. Not Randall.
Barrett? No,
Barrett. Barrett got hurt.
Barrett. RJ
50
Barrett.
minutes he plays on Saturday. Then they got a back-to-back. He plays over 40 minutes. Then in a game, they're losing by 15 points in the last minute. He has Barrett on the floor. He hurts his ankle. I don't know. That's a fireable offense. The guy should have been fired the next day. But, of course, we're just all getting out our heads. It's Tibbs being Tibbs. No, it's Tibbs being a total moron. But, hey, they're done. I'm glad. Get out. But, I'm concerned because right now I have the Nets too. I agree with you, Kush. I think when the Nets, if Simmons, the whole key is how quickly he comes back. If Simmons comes back and he's an elite defender like he was, and then you have Durant showing up, suddenly, and Irving, if this gets rectified, which I think it will be in New York pretty soon, because the whole country's starting to open up now.
Right.
And people don't care. I think it's going to happen in New York. Then if you hit middle of March and you have those three guys learning how to play together for the next month, they're going to be really freaking good. Curry's good. The Sixers, I still think it's an injury risk with if he's healthy and they're going to be good. They're going to be right there too. So I'd have them and the Bucks all 1, 2, 3. Heat just a small step below that, and then I have the next tier of teams, which includes the Bulls, the Cavs, and the Celtics and Raptors are playing well enough now that I think they've got into that second tier. And then after that, it's the pretenders, the Hornets and the Hawks. But
it's interesting for reading the comments here, the people watching the stream. I think Jeremy, he makes an interesting point. He's like, I hate when everyone's saying when everybody's healthy, we'll see. He's like, you're never healthy, which is true. So we make these predictions. And we know Embiid has an injury history. Kyrie Irving has an injury history. So, things can change very, very quickly.
That is
the number one, the way to view, are we a championship team? You have to stay healthy. You typically at the end of the year, you look at the team that wins and the ones that have the fewest injuries to their important player. You're right. Not everybody doesn't play 82 games, but you look at the great teams and the championship teams, and they all are healthy through the end of the year, period. That's what's happened to the Bulls. They've just gotten bitten by that injury bug, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was reminiscing about the '90s, which I do often, Fred, and with the exception of Scotty, having the surgery during '97, '98, and missing the first 2 months. It's amazing how healthy. Going back, you have to be to win a championship. You need to be healthy. It is amazing how healthy the Bulls were. During those 6, with the exception of '97, '98, and Pippen missing that time. How healthy that team was during those title runs. It was amazing.
Absolutely true. You absolutely need that.
No load management in those days. They're amazing, huh? But
fortunately, Tim, we're having some issues with your connection, but hopefully we'll get that rectified and fixed. Let's go on to the next question. Our fearless producer, throw it up on the screen. The Raptors are currently 3 games behind the Bulls, actually 2.5, I think, since they won tonight. Will they pass the Bulls before the season ends after acquiring Thad Young? Let's go to you, Coach. I
love Thad Young. He was just he was a great player. He knew how to play the game, right? And you look at him physically, like, well, he's slow. He can't jump. He can't run. But he just had a great feel for the game. I would have loved to have seen them pick him back up. I think it'll be a dogfight with the Bulls, because here's the key. The Bulls do have their big 3 healthy. Zach, DeRozan, Vooch are all healthy. So they are going to be competitive with all of those kind of mid-level teams. They're just going to struggle with some of those high-level ones. I think Toronto is going to finish below the Bulls as the year plays out. That's my take on it. In other words, they're not going to catch them.
Okay. Kush, let's go over to you for that.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. I'm gonna see if I can pull up Toronto's schedule the rest of the way. How far are they behind the Bulls right now?
2.5 after victory tonight.
2.5 after tonight.
2.5 or 3 games. And obviously the Bulls had a really nice win over them recently. But my concern is Scotty Barnes. They got a lot of good young players that are learning, getting better.
Toronto
is fantastic. They got a great coach.
I'm gonna say the Bulls will still finish ahead of Toronto. I'm looking at their schedule real quick. They have a pretty tough road trip coming up in March at Cleveland, at San Antonio, Phoenix, Denver, Lakers, Clippers, Lakers again, Philly, the Bulls. Those aren't on the road. Those are some home games mixed in there too. They have about a 6-game road trip.
Mm-hmm.
They have a pretty back-to-back with I say back-to-back with Brooklyn coming up. That's at the end of the month. Those could be 2 wins the way the Nets are going currently. I'll still say the Bulls will finish ahead of Toronto.
What say you, Tim?
I agree. I think I forget the order I just told you, but Toronto is definitely surging. I do like what they're doing there. I follow them a little more closely because Malachi Flynn, who played out here at San Diego State, was a big favorite. On the great San Diego State team. I think they were 30-2, and then the tournament didn't happen because of COVID. But he's playing behind Van Vliet. So some of my San Diego basketball friends are saying, "Oh, why isn't Malachi getting any minutes?" And you see how like Maxey and Tilly starting, and looking like he's going to be a top level player in the league. And I said, well, Malachi's playing behind a guy you can't get off the floor, Van Vliet, and Maxey's playing behind a guy you can't get on the floor in Simmons. So he's getting the opportunity. But I do like the chemistry of Toronto, but I would take the Bulls roster over Toronto's every day of the week. And again, there's scheduling and injuries, and I know a lot of variables there. But I still have the Bulls ahead of Toronto. But they're definitely a dangerous team. They still have a core from that title-winning team. So they're kind of like another version of Miami, right? They kind of have that culture. Nick Nurse, they're all buying in, and kind of an infusion of young talent too.
Yep, I would say I think the answer is I think the Raptors are going to catch the Bulls, and not only the Raptors, I think the Celtics are too. They both improved. Thad Young, I think, is going to help them immensely, and I think he's going to be a great fit with that team. And the Bulls just haven't been playing great lately, and as long as they're missing some of these key defensive players, their defense is going to continue to struggle. And Kush, I think you outlined a big reason why. Look at that schedule. It's a buzzsaw, and it just keeps on if the Bulls were remotely healthy, if they had Ball or if they had Caruso, I wouldn't even hesitate to say the Bulls are going to finish ahead of the Raptors. But now I'm concerned they're going to fall behind both teams. Let's go on to the next question. What do we have here? How many games does a full, healthy starting five with Patrick Williams and Lonzo Ball need to start for you to feel comfortable about the Bulls' playoff run? Kush, let's start out with you for this one. And I'd also add Caruso there.
Yeah, and Caruso. That full starting five, I would like to see them back at least by that last week of March. Get those 3 games in. I'm looking at the schedule right now on my other laptop over here. They can, get them back for those last 3 games that last week of March, and they got 2-4. They got 5 games in April. I would feel comfortable. I'd like it to be sooner, but I'd at least like it there.
What say you, Coach?
Kush, I'm in agreement. I would like more mid-March. Call that 8 or 9 games, then the 4 or 5 into April, giving them almost 15 games to get their conditioning back, right? You can pedal the Peloton bike as much as you want. It's nothing like running up and down a court. That's one issue. And then 2, just that integrating and getting that team chemistry again. Although, and Tim was absolutely right, they've got a fundamentally unselfish team. So chemistry is not going to be an issue, but you still need to play. So I'm guessing minimum 12 games. Love to see 15.
Yeah, I have really serious concerns about Patrick Williams. I think he'll come back. I think it'll be great for him. I think he needs to learn and get some development, but played awful first 5 games this year. I thought he was awful on stretch last year. I'm not expecting anything from Patrick. I would. So to me, I think you can almost make the argument that Green, although he doesn't have anywhere near the talent or is as good of a player, I think you can make the argument that Green would actually potentially, the Bulls are better with him starting. But as far as Ball, I mean, he is essential. His shooting has been huge for the team. When he's out there, it's definitely an improvement. I'd probably say they need about 2 weeks before the season ends to kind of optimize the situation. But looking at a big picture, I'm expecting Ball to play well in the playoffs, but I don't expect anything out of Pat Will. And I don't think anybody should. He's still way too young, and this has just been a lost year. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that I can add much more. Obviously, the more time they can get, the better. The good news is, it's not somebody new to the organization. So these guys, even though they're hurt, they're around the team, they're around practice, they're in film sessions. So I think it's more of the conditioning that I'm concerned about than maybe chemistry or building on the system. That's the good news. These guys have all been there. I mean, obviously, Crusoe and Lonzo's first year with the team, but we've obviously seen how well they fit in every sense of that description, right? Both team chemistry wise, on both ends of the floor, they're fantastic additions. So I'm not worried about them blending in. With Williams, anything that he can give on a positive is going to be gravy. I think having a guy that with his versatility, especially in the playoffs when you're switching everything, and need to have a lockdown defender, someone that that seemed to be somewhat of his forte, or potential for that. So, I'd like to see him get in the rotation at least, and it can't hurt. I've been pounding on the door for giving Ethan Thompson a chance. I know he's in D City, but I've seen him play since high school, and the way the NBA is today, a guy that's a three-position player like him, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a look. Maybe not as a rotation guy, but with all the injuries and people having to be in protocol for COVID, that he hasn't been brought up. I've pinged you a few times about it, and again, that's a relatively minor roster adjustment. But someone, an asset like that is right there. I'm wondering why they haven't given him a longer look, because his numbers in Windy City have been decent, if not good.
Yeah. Let's go to our last question, a surprise question I haven't seen yet. I'm looking forward to see what this is. Did the Bulls make the right move by not making any moves? Oh, interesting question. So let's start out with who we go. Let's go to Coach Colucci on this one.
You know what? We don't know, and I'll tell you why. There's always an axiom that goes around, gentlemen. Sometimes the best trades are the ones you don't make. Just to date myself, the owner of the Boston Red Sox and the owner of the Yankees were drinking one night, and they agreed to trade Joe DiMaggio for Ted Williams. They woke up the next day and realized we were drunk. We're not going to make that trade. It never happened. So we're not sure. There were some rumors about they made a pitch for Jacob Pirtle. That didn't come through. I think they were talking a little bit with Jeremy Grant. I think it was Jeremy Grant. So there was some feelers out there, Fred. We don't know if the trades that they didn't make that they should have made some trades. I'll say it again. And I know people want trades because that one magic piece is going to make it all better. And I don't know if that magic piece was out there. So I am perfectly comfortable with see what the buyout market looks like to get some marginal improvement. Let's get these guys healthy. So the most important people right now on the Bulls are their medical and training staff.
Kush, what say you?
I'll say the same thing I said earlier. After we saw the big trade today with Harden and Simmons, I just felt like any move the Bulls. I don't think there's a move out there that would put the Bulls ahead of them. So I wouldn't want them to have a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, let's hurry up and trade Kobe or trade Patrick Williams for a Miles Turner or Jeremy Grant. I'm not necessarily sure that those would put us ahead of those teams. So I agree with Coach. I'm fine standing pat, see what we have this year, get some playoff experience, and maybe make that big move in the offseason if it presents itself. See what we need. See what maybe we get Patrick Williams back and he's playing with these guys. Maybe he'll show something, Fred. I know you're not expecting much from him, and I was a little down on him myself, especially after he had that 0 rebound game early in the season. I can't remember who that was against. I'm just like, he played about 30 minutes. Like, how do you get 0 rebounds? Going back to kind of the hustle and intensity thing. This way, someone in the comments here again, this I am Skokes or Skokes. he said if people had the hustle of Javonte Green, he'd basically be Scotty Barnes, who I believe is also an FSU guy too. So
Right.
yeah, so I'm fine with the Bulls not making a big move. Maybe they can get someone in the buyout market, like maybe a big body. I don't know. Tristan Thompson might get bought out. We could use a backup. Maybe he might be better than Tony Bradley. I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of Tristan Thompson, but I know he's a big body that can get some rebounds at least. But who knows? We'll see what happens in the buyout market.
Tim, what say you?
Yeah, that's a good point on the buyout market. As far as on trade deadline day, I'm always kind of eager to hear what happens. It's exciting, but I have to tell you, when I saw that the final hour had passed, I went in to log in to see what all the transactions were, and my natural instinct reaction that the Bulls didn't do anything was relief. So kind of like Coach. I didn't know that's how my reaction would be, but when I saw, okay, they didn't give away Kobe for nothing, or there wasn't some move that I would have not been happy with, right? So, and again, I think they have a lot of interesting pieces, a lot of intriguing talent, and. I know before we wrap up, I have to say I'm impressed by all of your confidence in Ben Simmons. That sure he's an intriguing talent, but I've been waiting to see it since LSU in terms of winning, and if he's going to play with confidence, if he's going to be able to use a sense of guide from all accounts that the New York media, they're not going to give him much of a leash to step in and start playing well. So I frankly am not in your court on Ben Simmons in any stretch of the word.
Well, hey Tim, if he thinks the Philadelphia fans were tough, wait till he gets a taste of the New York fans.
No, yeah. I will say
I was a little on the guy, but. Again, when prospects like him come along, it's like, okay, show me, right? And yes, there's been flashes. He's a great athlete. He's versatile. But as an overall basketball player and things like leadership, confidence, those are things that I need to see from someone to call them a great player. And he does not have those attributes.
I mean, I would counter. I got to disagree. I really got to disagree. I think – everybody's going to point to he passed up the dunk in the playoffs, and that play it took on a Denzel Valentine missed three in Miami type of, social networking. Yes, it just ballooned into Ben Simmons isn't a great player. And I think we forget that game he had over 11 assists. He's a fantastic playmaker. He's a fantastic athlete. He's an elite defender. To me, he's the best in the league. And I think people forget that. Every time I've seen him play the Bulls, he scares the crap out of me. And what's so huge about him is you can put him on the best. You can put him on DeRozan. This is what you see a lot with the Bulls. Everybody's so excited about Green, and he's had a fantastic year, but nobody guards Green. If you just watch, his man's consistently peeling off to double on DeRozan or to double on Levine, and so he's going to have a couple nice games. You don't have to double anymore if you have a guy like Ben Simmons on your team, because he'll take the best perimeter player and go one-on-one. No more doubles needed. It's going to be huge for the Nets, absolutely huge for them. And I think he's a perfect fit for them. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to play with Embiid. And I'd also counter too what he had to go through with his burying him in that game, Embiid calling him out in that game. Embiid missed a couple of huge free throws in that game. Nobody said a word. I thought it was absolutely appalling how they just buried him. And that's how a team reacts, and his coach, can you win with him? I don't know. Oh, all should be forgiven? He didn't handle it great either. I'll admit that. Ben Simmons didn't, but it was partly their fault too. And I'm looking forward to it because I think the Nets are going to pound the Sixers in the playoffs. I think the Nets are going to be a better team, and Ben Simmons will have the last laugh in this whole scenario.
Hey Fred, what's the assuming everyone's healthy, a big assumption. What's the Nets starting five in their first playoff game?
Was Simmons, Durant, Irving. That's all you need to know. I don't care who else there is. Right?
Drummond, Aldridge.
Joe Harris.
That's a great question. Harris might not be back.
He might have surgery. I guess he might have another surgery.
Yes. So that's a big blow. No denying that.
Patty Mills? Nah, Patty comes off the bench, right?
Is Claxton still on the team there? I honestly don't even know.
Claxton, they still have him.
Yeah.
I think
So that's a great point, Kush. But I do still feel those three. You can get whatever you want around them. They're going to be freaking awesome. So,
Fred,
especially
I think it's very telling though, Fred, that you can't name beyond 5 or 6 nets, right? And that's my point about the Bulls roster. Again, maybe they don't have a Kevin Durant, although DeRozan is playing like Durant this year, I would say so far. And I would take Levine, right there with Kyrie potentially, right? But I think if you look at the depth of the rosters of the Nets and Philly, man for man, that's why I'm not totally buying in like you guys are. I'm not seeing it.
They got Drummond and they got Curry.
Their minds.
They got Drummond and they got Curry. So, Kush, I think you thought that was
Curry.
Yeah.
Those are two good additions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got Claxton going through the roster.
I've always liked Andre Drummond. Obviously he's not a number one. He couldn't do it in Detroit. He's not that type of offensive player, but he doesn't need to score now. He just plays some defense, grab a bunch of rebounds. They got Aldridge. Like I said, they got Seth Curry now. I mean, Patty Mills, who I forgot about Patty Mills, has had a really solid year for them.
Yeah, I was at that game where Patty Mills killed them. Where the Nets killed them at home.
Yeah, I can't remember that when the Bulls played Brooklyn, when Brooklyn blew out the Bulls at the United Center, I think it was last month. They had some young center. I can't remember his name, but he had like 20 points. I don't know if he's still around. He was probably one of those fill-ins during the whole,
Kush, the worst part of that, they got just smoked, and I got in a car accident driving in and parking. So it was a loser day all around for Coach.
Oh, man.
Sorry
to hear that. You had an accident. Yeah. Did you go to the game? You were at the United Center?
Oh, of course you went to the game. My son looked at me and said, "We're going to the game, right?" Yeah. I mean, it was your basic fender bender. Yeah, we're going to the game. And I stewed for 2 hours, drank a couple of beers, drove home with the right front fender dented in, and they got their asses kicked by Brooklyn. It was a tough day all around.
That sucks.
Well, to wrap this up, and thanks again for joining the Knights of the Roundball table. I just want to go around. How many games will the Bulls finish this season? How many wins will they finish with? And what is your prediction for a seed? Let's start out with you, Tim Gallagher.
I'm going to say 50 wins and a 4 seed.
34-21 right now. You say that they're the 3rd seed today. You say they're actually tied overall with the Cavs. You say they're going to be a 4 seed. So let's go over to you, Coach. What's your call?
I'll say they'll win 47 games.
Mm-hmm.
And man, 5th seed. No, God. So, no, I'm going to say 4. I'm sticking with it. That was the beginning of the season. That was my hope. That was the best case scenario. It's going to be March is going to be hellacious, but I think they can hold on and get that 4th seed. I'll say 48 wins, 4th seed. Everybody in the East is going to have to beat up on each other. So it's not, the Bulls might have a bad stretch, but other teams are going to have to lose too. That's just math, right? Math's not my thing, but they're going to have to play each other. Boston's going to have to play Philly. Philly's going to have to play Toronto. Toronto's going to have to play Brooklyn. They're going to be beating up on each other too.
What say you, Coach?
Kush, I beat you by a game. I'm at 49. They go 15-12 as we end the season. Somewhere about 5. I'm hoping they don't fall to 6. But I'm thinking 5-6 is where they wind up. Given their injury level, that would be a terrific season.
So I had, before the season, I said 47 wins. I'm going to stick with 47 wins. I think they're going to be a 6 seed now. I think the Cavs are going to fall, and I think Cavs are going to fall to 7 behind them. But the Raptors and Celtics are going to move ahead of them. And I think, my prediction for the longest time has been, 7 playoff wins this year, 7 title next year. I think it's next year. And we got to hope that growth through Patrick Williams and one more key acquisition, whether it's that young, I don't know who it is, but really puts him over the top. And then we still get – the only thing that does keep me up at night staring at the drywall is how is DeRozan going to play any better than he has this year? I mean, are we really going to expect him to do that? I mean, the guy's been absolutely freaking unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm worried about him getting tired.
Getting older, another year older. And, we're seeing Vucevic start to, kind of up and down quite a bit. So,
yeah.
Regardless, I call an end to the Knights of the Roundball table. Thank you, everyone who's joined us to listening. I am Scott, Jeremy Munoz for your questions. This was an enlightening evening, and I can't thank for some of the incredible minds that were on the show this evening, and Coach Colucci and Tim Gallagher. Really a pleasure to talk some Bulls basketball with you, and hope we can do it again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks to our fearless producer, Stephen Johnson. God bless everybody. Godspeed. Have a good one.